Did you know that there are an estimated 550,000 podcasts available on iTunes and more than 8,000 new shows added each week? That's a lot of podcasts. And you, my friends, can have your own. Traci DeForge, founder and CEO of Produce Your Own Podcast, is here now to help. That's a lot of podcasts.
That's a lot of podcasts, and we're not even done yet. We're just keeping on growing, that's for sure.
So for people who might not be familiar with what a podcast is, can you describe exactly what it is and why it's trending right now?
Absolutely. So a podcast is essentially an audio file that you can download either through iTunes or other Google Podcasts. You can listen to them on the website of the individual podcast hosters platforms, and they're really utilized for entertainment value, educational tools, and creativity, and great for businesses as a marketing tool.
I'm listening to podcasts all the time. I have a really long commute, and so I'm always picking a new podcast. How can people pick the right podcast for them? How do they find out there's so many?
Well, there are so many, and that is such a great question. But what we say is, go to where your interests are. So if you are, in fact, my husband was not an early adopter of podcasting, and so he was asking me, how do I find out more about podcasts when I started doing this as a business? And I said, just go to iTunes and search a category of things that you're interested in, and that's where you can start. And then as a result, if you're interested in learning more in a do-it-yourself type capacity, then search home improvement or search marketing strategies, and there are tons of podcasts out there for crime, true stories. So it's fiction, nonfiction, business, education.
And I know that WMAR 2 also had its own podcast recently, so businesses are doing it, news channels are doing it, everyone's doing it. If I want to get started, what are the 5 top tips that you have for me?
The 5 top tips. So I would say first and foremost is you want to get really clear on why you want to do a podcast, because it's important to know what your purpose of doing one is, and so that you can get really clear, especially if you're using it as a marketing tool for your business. So once you have that really good, clear idea of the vision for the show, then you want to commit to consistency.
Yes.
Consistency is one of the key things that makes you a successful podcaster. And the consistency element is not just about releasing on the same day of the same week, but it's also about committing to being consistent of when you produce your podcast so that you have it fits into your lifestyle, into your schedule, so you'll keep sustaining the commitment to do it.
Right.
Number 3 is absolutely around quality audio production. And not everybody may have the budget when they're very first starting out to use a full service production company, but you can definitely do things like invest in a quality microphone. A secret, if you will, is that if you have a co-host, then you want to make sure that you buy the exact same microphone, because it'll make a big difference in the quality of how your podcast sounds.
That is a very good tip, because I have heard that sometimes where you're like, why does she sound so great and then the other one doesn't? Because
so that really is helpful. And then number 4 would be really getting a clear strategy of how you're going to use the podcast. So you can produce the episode, record the episode, and then you can transcribe it and repurpose that into social media. You can have it edited and put into blog posts. You can really repurpose it so it becomes the content of your marketing hub at that point.
And as we're wrapping up, I know that you are working with local businesses here to produce their own podcast.
Yes, I'm actually here working with Brotman Financial. They're launching a podcast this year, and we're creating it for me. He's a great guy.
Great. And if you want to start your own, get a free ebook. Why not? Download available at produceyourownpodcast.com/ebook. So if you're a business owner or a private user, you can use this service. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Really
it was
appreciate
a pleasure.
it. Yes, and we'll be right back with more Midday Maryland right after the break. Stay tuned.